Welcome to our yoga class today. Karina and I are going to show you some simple, easy to use poses you'll probably experience in most yoga classes you would attend. And we're going to go over alignment to make it safe and also give you less intense options if you're trying to build strength and flexibility. First and foremost, we want you to be safe so you can continue on your yoga practice and journey. So we start you off with safe, easy to use poses. Karina, we'll have you on your hands and knees for cat-cow pose just to generally warm up your spine. This is something simple, easy to use. You're going to have hips shoulder width distance between arms and hands, which is to say your hands are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips. The cat arches its back. The cow has a bit of a sway back. This is articulating the facet joints in the spine and mobilizing the vertebra just to waken those muscles, warm them up, make them a little bit more pliable for movement. She's repeating that several times. And Karina, where do you feel that primarily?
Starting to feel my wrists getting tired.
Wrists? Okay. So and this is a good example, and this is why we shoot the videos this way. We're going to have Karina take pressure off of the wrist. Can you pull your bottom just a little closer to your heels? Leave your hands where they are. When you lessen this angle, does that feel better? Mm-hmm. There we go. She would use that same general motion in downward facing dog to decrease the pressure on her wrists. When you do this through your spine, is that still comfortable? Mm-hmm. Okay, so she's warmed up. Basic, simple alignment. The only thing she felt any discomfort on was on her wrists. Now that Karina has warmed up her spine gently, we're going to have her come to standing. And then from here, she can swan dive, she can bend at the knees. I want her to do a forward bend. As she does a forward fold, a forward bend, she can put hips width distance between the legs and feet. She can walk it out from side to side, left to right, knees, hips, allowing her upper body to hang as much as possible. She can clasp at the elbows so she can kind of sway, undulate, opening her spine. As you're doing this forward bend, you can bend the knees as much or as little as you want. The more you straighten the legs, the more pressure you're going to feel in your hamstrings as they lengthen. Intense is okay, pain is not. You can see all of the movement and undulation Karina is dealing with because she's trying to work through that area. To give her another pose to continue that, we're going to have her go into downward facing dog pose, which means she's going to reach the hands out again, shoulders width distance apart at the hands, hips width distance apart at the feet. Is it too much on your wrists, Karina?
They're okay for now.
Okay. She can bend the knees and she can walk out the pose side to side, back and forth. It means that one hip is going to drop, one hip is going to lift. She can walk out side to side, back and forth. She's probably going to feel that more in calves. And she's like, yes. And hamstrings. And then how is it in your hands and wrists?
It feels fine.
Okay. I ask about the hands and wrists because I want you at home to make sure that you feel comfortable. You're trying to eventually distribute weight equally between the hands and feet, but when you start out, your hands might be a little bit weaker. You might not have as much stability or strength through that area, so make sure to go slow and take it within a range that you can accept. If you find that you get tired of downward facing dog, you can't hold it through the hands, you can walk the hands back to the feet, walk the hands back to the feet, and go back to standing forward bend. Thank you for showing the transition. Now, if you had a preference between those two, Karina, which would you do right now?
I like alternating between them.
There we go. When she says she likes alternating between, I'm giving her an easy transition so she can practice these poses and practice maintaining them in good form. The more distance she creates between her hands and feet is going to give a more full expression of downward facing dog pose, but it's going to make it more intense. She's dropped all the way into a squat, probably to take pressure off of her low back. Aha, I guessed correctly. Movement in yoga class for me is very important, and I try to my best to help students embody and help you figure out what pose is going to help you unwind some tension, some chronic, habitually held tension patterns you have, by giving Karina very quickly different options between standing forward bend and downward facing dog pose. Now, slowly stand up for me. And we'll give her time to get recentered. She's been hanging out upside down. I'm going to make sure she's got her balance. Much more warm and open than when we started. Now, Warrior 2. You can pick either side.
So that's where you break down.
45 degrees. There we go. Now, just like the other poses, the more she steps this foot forward, it's going to make this pose more challenging. Long term, she's going to wind up bending this knee. And many people will do this. Do you see that her knee comes a little bit past her ankle? What I want her to do is I want her to step her foot just a little bit further away. Now keep the knee above the ankle, and you're going to feel it in here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
And my right glute.
There you go. Now, if you generally, as a feeling, if you're pulling this knee forward and rolling, spiraling this knee down and out into the foot. Does that feel more stable? Okay. You've noticed that I haven't dealt with the arms. I haven't dealt with the spine. I'm just trying to get the foundation of the pose, which is the legs and feet. If her knee came way out in front of the foot, I don't think that's a good place to hold that for very long. If I was doing a squat, that's fine. But when I'm holding this position, I think it's better to have the knee above the ankle. So can you work on this? Can you feel that stretch? And then from here, Karina, if you take, and I just keep your hands where they are, if you take your hips and slowly turn them, does that increase the stretch?
Yes.
Now, she gets a chance to slowly play with that. I don't want her hips completely square. What I'm trying to do is bring nuance to this left hip and that twist that she feels. There you go. Now, can you add the arms? And this arm reaches out front. It's opposite.
Oh.
There you go. So now, long spine. You generally want the wrists level with the shoulder. And when it comes to the elbows, what happens if you bend, twist, turn? I want you to feel comfortable through the shoulder blades, through the shoulder joint, and through the elbows. We don't want you to hyperextend at the elbow. And eventually we want the palms down. There we go. So lift this guy up to my finger, a little bit higher. Right, a little more. How's that right there?
Feels good.
Aha, is it too much?
No.
Okay, and then this guy I'm going to lower just a little bit. Now, can they pull apart in equal and opposite directions? Now, have you forgotten about your legs burning?
No.
So go ahead, arms down, and then step back into just standing pose, Tadasana. There you go. Just give your legs a second. And then we're going to have you do it to the opposite side. Same basic idea. We're going to walk you through it again. Little subtle changes. I don't expect you to get it perfect the first time. Standing poses, Patricia Walden would call friends for life, meaning there's something that you'll continue to work on over time. I'll go back to these again and again and again just because they form a core part of our standing poses in yoga. Go ahead and switch sides for me. Same basic pose, 45 degrees, and she steps out. Now, from the front, most people, when they do this, they'll have a tendency to take the knee and roll the knee in. What I want her to do is to try to put the knee right above the ankle from this plane and this plane. Then, can she spiral open on that back leg? So instead of heel back, there you go. Can you roll down into the foot? And then, when she did that, this knee started to roll in. So, aha. There you go. Now, you can lengthen your spine at home. You're not trying to get rid of your normal curves in your spine. You're trying to stand tall. You're a warrior. Have you ever seen anybody slouch into battle? Aha. So arms, play with the arms, the shoulders kind of opening, no excess tension there. When I have people play with their arms, it also helps them take focus, I think, just for a second out of their legs. There you go. And the fingers can gently come just like that. So they'll come together. There you go. Legs dying yet?
A little bit.
Now, if you're me in the pose, now what you do is you squeeze your navel in towards your spine because you're slouching. And slowly go ahead and step out, Tadasana again. Little subtle changes. Mainly in Warrior 2, you don't want your knee out in front of the ankle. I think that's one of the key pieces as far as like knee stability is concerned. I don't want you to compromise your knees. From here, Karina's going to go into Warrior 1. Warrior 1 is Virabhadrasana 1. It's a comparable pose, except it has a slightly different hip position. And the foot stance is not typically as wide. So step out on the opposite leg, Karina. The foot position is essentially the same, but here's the main difference in what's going to happen. Instead of Karina having her arms out, she's going to have both arms up. Now, your hips are going to stay faced straight forward. You're going to bend this knee to 90 degrees. If you come out in front of, you see how the other heel's coming off? Aha. So let's keep that guy down.
Is that one at a 45 degree angle?
Typically, yes. But the stance, I think in your case, I want that foot closer. I want it back where it was. There we go. Can you keep the heel down, keep the pelvis forward, and keep the knee above the ankle?
Is my knee above my ankle?
Mm-hmm. There you go. Now, with your knee here, can you move it just a little bit out towards, is that too much right there? Okay. Does that feel more stacked? That's what I'm going for. I want you to feel stacked and sturdy. That same slight twist, especially to the back leg, you're rolling out to that outside of, in her case, the left foot. Her guns shoot straight forward, and then her arms are up at her side. If she wants to leave the arms out initially, she could put them to her side. She could also reach them out. This is not a classical Warrior 1, but it gives some option. There's a difference. There's a difference just in the arm position in this pose and the position of the pelvis. Is it too much in the quad? But you definitely feel some burn in there. Yeah. Now, if she wanted more oomph, she could step the foot further out, but I wanted to give you a light version first. Go ahead and step back into mountain pose. We give Karina just a moment to stretch her legs. You're holding a lot of tension, a lot of contraction in muscles doing those standing poses. So it's good to take a quick break in between just to kind of go back to neutral. As she goes into Warrior 1 on the opposite side now, generally the posterior foot, the foot in the back, is 45 degrees. In this case, the left foot is 90 degrees, and here's one of those subtle differences. Hopefully we can catch this on camera. In Warrior 2, the heels line up. In Warrior 1, there's hips width distance between the feet. And the reason is I want her hips to be able to face forward. And if I had your legs in a line, do you see how it would cramp your hips? When she has just hips width distance in Warrior 1, it's going to make that hip turn easier. She can keep her hands on her hips, or she can go ahead and lift them up. Palms face in towards each other. She's 90 degrees right over the ankle. Squeeze the navel in gently. There we go. Little bit of compression. Squeezing the navel in is going to give her a little bit more core support. Is it more challenging on this side? Or is it a little easier because we dealt with the distance between the feet?
It feels about the same.
About the same? Okay. It wasn't a huge difference, and I didn't bring it up last time. But once we've gone over the poses several times, it's easier to bring nuance. Go ahead and stand in mountain pose again. And you can stretch, move around the feet, whatever feels good. It takes time to build leg strength to be able to do these poses. Now I'm going to have Karina go into Warrior 2 again, and we're going to throw a curveball this time. And she's like, oh no, not him.
So this is where,
Yep.
like, your heel lines
So
up to the middle of the foot?
From the front, this foot, when you bring it out, if you followed a line from the second toe through the heel, that would go and shoot the heel of the other foot. There you go. When you did Warrior 1, normally the stance is not as far, the gait is not as far, and there's hips width distance between the feet that you don't have in Warrior 2, because this turns and twists through the pelvis in a different way. Now, from here, do you remember the arm position? There you go. Now, she can hold this for a moment, and then here's how we're going to throw her a curveball. And we're not going to laugh at you if you fall out, Karina. Can you lift your toes off the ground? Now, gently spread the toes and then have them come back down. How did it change the pose?
Makes me have to engage the legs and glutes more.
There's a difference in the grip with the floor, and in many standing poses, when I want to throw students a curveball, I have the focus on their toes or lifting their toes, because are they using the toes to try to grip onto the mat? Normally the toes are just placed there for additional support. They're not gripping. Go ahead and start or scoot out into mountain pose again. Let's try the opposite side. Same basic thing. Too much on your feet? Just good to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like I need, like, my knees get a little confrontational.
So 45 degrees with the back foot, 90 degrees with the front foot. If she wants it to be less intense, she decreases the gait. She puts the feet closer together. If she wants more, she does the complete opposite. And from here, arms are out, spine is long, warrior pose, retracting the neck, lifting through the spine, squeezing the navel in, dropping down into your seat, square into the leg, knee above the ankle. She's like, oh my God, really? So with your right arm, can you have it go a little bit further back? There we go. Do you feel the length between those two now? There you go. Now, can you lift the toes? It makes it so much more challenging. When you do this at home, try this in each of the poses, Warrior 2, Warrior 1. You can lift the toes, you can spread the arches of the feet, and then slowly put the toes back down. It completely changes the pose. Go ahead and step back again. And this time I want you to forward fold. I want you to forward bend. Doing the forward bend is a relaxation pose. After working her legs, she can bend the knees as much as she would like. She can walk the legs out, she can hang the head. We're always refining alignment in poses. When you're doing this at home, following along with this, just make sure to go slow. How does it feel? If it feels good, it is good. If it feels painful, I would back out and see if we can make it feel better. And she hangs upside down, lengthening the spine, lengthening the neck. And then slowly, Karina, can you come down to the ground just with your legs comfortably crossed? I'll sit with you. We can face over towards the cameras. And then because now we've taken the legs out of the equation, she gets to sit. I'm going to have her just, sometimes I'll call this a bounce, just kind of back and forth, letting these go. How does it feel, Karina, if you just fold forward for a second?
Very nice.
There we go. Feels good on my hips, my low back. Leaning forward. And then slowly to the opposite, which is arms behind, a little bit of back bend. Good support through the palms, walking the shoulders and hands out. Yoga, when done safely, is slow. You can always build to more intense practice, but when you have the foundation in alignment, it makes it safe, easier for you to use on your own. It's also one of the reasons that many yoga studios have mirrors so that they can correct alignment or allow students to see themselves once they know the basics of, say, knee position, which is predominantly what we covered in Virabhadrasana 1 and 2, which is Warrior 1, Warrior 2. I hope you enjoyed the small shifts in focus that we gave you. Continue to play with the poses, and thank you so much for tuning in with us today. Namaste. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. I hope you'll follow along for more of our yoga series. And if you want to follow and do more yoga with us, we specifically would like you to download our yoga app just down below.